Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Bingetown TV, that is. My name is Kyle. I'm joined by Kathleen, Luke, and Jimmy. So Jimmy's back for another round. It's nice to have you, Jim. We're
Thank
here
you.
to discuss episode 10, the season finale of House of the Dragon, titled The Black Queen. So this is actually, we all got together, all 7 of us. So I guess if you're only listening to House of the Dragon, you might not know that there are 3 other members of Bingetown. So we have Dave, producer Dave, we got B Toms, Brian, and then we have Paul. So we actually were all together watching this episode, which was actually really fun. We were drinking our Negroni Spagliato with Prosecco in it.
Sure were.
Which
Gagging on them.
yeah, Days of Fortunatamente, it was disgusting, but it's all right. We forgive you, Emma. But so we got pretty much all King's Landing last week. We got pretty much all Dragonstone this week. We have a ton of shit to talk about, so I will just say that I really, really enjoyed this episode on my second watch and like kind of just engaging with the fandom, I guess, for lack of a better term, throughout the week. I thought they wrapped things up fairly well and put us on a good foundation for season 2, and that's kind of my initial take.
Yeah, I can go next. The tee up was perfect. I remember watching it all live. We were a little tuned up, drinking some whiskey, drinking some Negroni Spagliatos, and it ended and I realized I felt dissatisfied at the end, and I thought that was a reflection of the episode, but in reality it was a reflection of I was so fucking sad that the season was over.
Yeah.
And that we'll have to wait so long. But on my rewatch, man, so fucking good. It hit so well. I don't know. I want to ask you guys, like, did you like the way that the penultimate was only Team Green and the finale was only Team Black? Did you like that? I don't know if I would have. I feel like in episode 9, I missed Daemon and Rhaenyra. In episode 10, I missed Allison and them. So what do you think, Luke?
I think it's going to look better on a rewatch because this is truly the end of the setup for the war, the actual Dance of Dragons. But I feel like this was different. Like this didn't feel like Game of Thrones, where episode 9 was truly the peak of each season, and it seemed like they did it on purpose. Where this season, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would say 10 is equally as climactic as 9 was. So it didn't feel like Game of Thrones in that way. But in terms of just like the different point of views we got here, it did feel weird. But I was happy because just like it's going to be so good on a rewatch. And then when we go right into the beginning of season 2, it's just going to be all out war. So it's just like fucking everything's going to be crazy and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Season 2 can't come soon enough. Just watching House of the Dragon reminded me how much I loved and miss Game of Thrones. And it really kind of knocks you in the head when you're thinking about it compared to what's been coming out recently. And I don't want to disrespect anything, especially shows we cover on the pod that we do enjoy, like even Wheel of Time, The Witcher, or something like that. But it's just House of the Dragon, old Game of Thrones, the production, the character, everything just seems like it's on another level. And it's just been, it's been a joy. And I'm glad that I was able to jump on, and it was really fun to watch with all 7 of us. We haven't done that in a while, and we need to try to do that more often.
Yeah.
We nailed it though, that this was totally the CGI budget was like had to be 90% for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dragons this episode. And I guess going off of Jimmy's point of we all watching it together and it was cool, we actually had everyone do a little bit of a mini death pool. And I think it's just funny to look at it now, looking back. So Lainey stuck true to herself and said Otto was going to die. I love where your heart and head are at there. Dave, producer Dave, said Aegon the Younger. So he was obviously a little drunk. And then we had Paul, Luke, and Brian B. Toms all said Jace. So your heads were in the right place there. And Jimmy, who I'm suspicious of because he does this often, I feel like he cheated. And he said Luke. Little Luke was going to go.
So in my defense, I said Jace, and then I said, wait a second, who's the one that is taking Driftmark? And I was just going by who's more expendable, but also a big deal. Listen, I understand what you're saying because I am pretty active on our Bingetown TV Twitter, and I was saying while we were all hanging out that I really haven't been spoiled on much. And you were actually saying how this is probably the worst show in a long time, where people were just throwing spoilers left and right. So I'm not sure how I haven't gotten anything. If you wanna say I'm fraudulent, go ahead, dude.
Nah, come on, I'm just playing with you. But I saw so much stuff leading into this week about about the whole thing at Storm's End, which we'll talk about. Even like 2 episodes ago, when our boy Lord Beesbury died, everyone I was seeing a ton of tweets of like R.I.P. Beesbury on like Tuesday after the episode before he died. So it was still 6+ days until we got the episode, and everyone was like, "Why are you saying this? Like, we still have so much time until the episode." And it's kind of been consistently like that. Which, I mean, I don't know. I guess there's pros and cons to people being super active on social media, and it gets the show hype and things like that. But yeah, it felt like this was probably one of the worst experiences I've had, just in terms of how spoily people have been.
Right.
Yeah,
Avoid
enough
it.
about
I don't look at comments at all.
Spoilers. We'll get into this actual episode.
Kathleen decided to text our group and say she's spoiling herself.
That's
To
true.
read the book. I said
She's
I was
gonna
going to
read
read
the
the
book.
book
Yeah.
so no one can spoil it for me. I'll spoil it for myself. I'd rather hear from the man himself, George R.R. Martin, than some whack ass Twitter person.
Yeah,
true.
I mean, Jesus, we have what, like a year and a half at least until season 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, you almost got to stay on guard until then.
Even my TikTok, and I know this is like, I've seen Game of Thrones, but I obviously don't remember what Joffrey says, but there's a scene where he straight up says who Rhaenyra, well, I won't even say it, but he literally, I didn't see it. It's only the first 2 words, but he's like, Rhaenyra Targaryen, and
Oh no, because guess what? Don't go on Bingetown TV's TikTok or YouTube Shorts channel, because I posted that probably a few times. There's also another scene where Stannis is talking to his daughter, and she's reading the Dance of Dragons, and it's not actually a huge spoiler. It's kind of just like she just basically gives a background of what Fire and Blood is almost, she doesn't really give any major spoilers, but I posted that one as well. So I guess technically, knowing that from Thrones, that's my spoiler, but I don't want to say anything else, because it's not like they say names or anything besides Kathleen. You said she says Rhaenyra, but that's it. Or Joffrey says Rhaenyra, but that's it.
Jimmy's selling out for views and clout.
I'm selling out for those YouTube Shorts, dude.
All right, so back to this episode. We start off with Lucerys, which immediate red flag. He has not been. I mean, he has the air of Driftmark episode where he's a bit of a bigger player, but this was kind of obviously a red flag. He's in the main chamber of Dragonstone, looking specifically at Driftmark. He kind of like touches it, rubs it longingly, and then Mama Rhaenyra comes in and kind of gives him the pep talk that he needed. And this was like this was a nice little scene here.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't want Driftmark, and guess what? He's not gonna get it.
He's not gonna get it. But I mean, it is funny how he says like I get seasick on boats. Like, I can't do this, man. Like, I'm freaking out.
So he mentions his grandsire, and I think he says he's the best navigator. Is he talking about Corlys there? And he's still leaning into the okay, that's what I thought, which is kind of crazy because he's the only one that isn't facing reality besides Rhaenyra, who she's aware more, I guess, but it's just Jay seems to lean more into the idea that he's a strong, like he knows it in his heart.
Yeah.
Well, I think that he would still see Corlys as his granddad. I mean, even if you're not technically his blood, he was still raised as your grandmother Rhaenys and your grandsire Corlys. Like you have blood through Rhaenys, you have Baratheon blood through Rhaenys, or whatever the hell she says later. It's
yeah.
Technically, he does, because Rhaenys is cousins with Viserys and whatever. But
luckily, they're all just incest, so it works out. That statement.
He's been a bit insulated from the rumors as well. He was young enough while they were in King's Landing, and then they moved to Dragonstone. We do get the whole funeral thing where he gets called strong and bastard or whatever. But he was also fairly young at that point. So he's grown up for years at this point, being like, no one really talks about it around him anymore.
Right. And there, like you said, I was actually just going to say the same thing. There are scenes specifically where Jace might be a little bit privy, but Rhaenyra is definitely, and people are giving looks when it's with Lucerys because he's young enough where it's just blown right over his head. And I'm pretty sure there's even a line out of his mouth where he's like, what are they talking about? Like, why are they saying that? Before. Now he is old enough now where, you should get it, but still.
Come on, man. He's a sweet little boy. And I just liked a little bit of exchange we get here. Obviously, they're setting us up at this point now that we know what happens at the end of it. But I just like how he says, "I'm not like you." She says, "In what way?" And he says, "I'm not so perfect." And it's just, she kind of laughs almost because we've seen her grow up too. Like, we've seen the way that she acted. And it's obviously she's matured and she's grown and she's become now this Queen Rhaenyra. And it's just, it kind of made me chuckle and almost like think fondly back on the early episodes where we see young rowdy Rhaenyra too. So I thought that was nice. I kind of, if they were going for that, it definitely worked for me.
Great.
So this little nice moment gets interrupted by, we get Sir Laurent comes in and informs her that Rhaenys has arrived and wants an audience with her and Daemon. So obviously we want to take this scene on its own as well. I know Luke was really, really loving this scene when we watched. So this is just essentially Rhaenyra and Daemon find out all the happenings that happened in King's Landing last episode.
Yeah, this was just a cleanup of a bunch of people's complaints, and the reasoning stands that Rhaenys was not about to start this war and create the first death. Even though in hindsight, like, it looks even better now because it probably would have saved Luke's life. But I did like that they addressed it all, and like the writers, this is the quality of the House of the Dragon. Like, they don't miss out on opportunities to make everything sound front to back, and going off the back of George's book, like, this was a great scene. Like, Rhaenys killed it here. She told him everything, and then yeah, I don't really have much to add there besides she's the best, and I still love her.
When Rainey shows up, and obviously Luke is thinking like, "Oh fuck, Corlys is dead."
Yeah.
Now I have Driftmark. It's so funny. He's so worried and anxious this entire episode. And Rhaenyra is such a good mom in this episode. They really tee you up to make this a dramatic death. And he's just so sweet and fuck me up. They nailed it. I thought this was like, on my rewatch, I was like hurting by the end of it. But again, Rhaenyra with the contractions when she hears Aegon, they crowned Aegon in the crowd, in the town or whatever, in front of the masses, and she's like, immediately contractions, starts another miscarriage, another brutal scene for Emma, and they crushed it again, but in the most like, damn, 2 of these. And this one's the
fourth birth scene, or is this a
fourth with Lane with
yeah, exactly.
Emma too.
Yeah, it's been a lot, and I mean, I think they've been going for it. They really told us, I guess, episode 1.
Yeah, they were going to.
Yeah, when Emma says like, "Hey, girl, this is our battlefield. This is how we do it." This one was wild.
I wasn't expecting that. Yeah,
almost on the level of the episode 1 where it was. I remember when it's not even like her water breaks, but like, I guess like the final like push and like all of that liquid. I get a flashback to health class in high school. Just never realizing there's so much liquid. And then B, I love Dave was like, "Ow!" Dave's reaction was perfect when it all came out.
I saw 2 tweets. One being like, as a new first-time mother about to give birth, I really fucking hate this show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And 2,
that's bad.
When Daemon is like, that whore of a queen, like, killed my brother and stole the throne, and people were like, Viserys didn't have half of his face, half of his body is literally dead, and you thought somebody murdered him.
Yeah, I mean, he says it a few times. He's like, "My brother was slain."
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, the other thing is Rhaenyra's response. I get it. I mean, but all I got to say is at the same time, I'm thinking, of course, as soon as Viserys dies, they're making moves. You're a Dragonstone. And for a while, they did say you need to stay in King's Landing because you need to keep face, make sure everyone knows that if anything happens, you're here and shit's not going to hit the fan. And, you can, battle it out if you have to with the Greens to make sure you actually succeed like you're supposed to. But then when shit started getting really bad for them, the rumors were getting bad. Strong was sent and then died. When he was sent to Harrenhal, when stuff started getting really bad and she went off to Dragonstone, she should have expected this.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's not only is your dad dying, but, whether it's real or not to us because of the books, that prophecy, is screwed up. You're supposed to be the one to take the throne. There's all this stuff going on that's causing her emotional anguish. And then, of course, the contractions. But it was at first a little surprising on the first watch through. I was a little bit surprised at like how like shocked she seemed when she was like, they took the throne and they succeeded him and they had a coronation in front of the masses. It's like, well, what else do you think they're gonna do?
Well, granted, the last interaction they show us is the two of them being on good terms and saying like, "Hey,
well, yeah,
back.
I guess
take
that's true.
take a week, take a vacation here in King's Landing. We would love to have you." So I really think that
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah, that she didn't think that Alicent specifically would do that to her. Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
And also a piece of it has to be that maybe at the time they were thinking like Daemon, like they have the 12 nukes or whatever it is, 7 nukes to their 3. Like this is just overwhelming military strength where up until the part where she tries to be peaceful, I was thinking like Daemon, like this is over tonight if you want it. Like just even if they have all 3 dragons ready to fight, including Vhagar, the biggest one, you win. So that's Daemon. I'm going to bring up so many times this episode because Daemon's military, like them highlighting his military strength and like his strategic mind was so awesome because the second Rhaenys gives him this news, he instantly just turns and he's like, all right, so get the dragon keepers ready because they can fight. Now I got to think about the city watch. Like all of that was so amazing. And then he's like, but why are we even worried about this? We got fucking 12 dragons, whatever it is. And we're going to talk about that too, because I couldn't make the numbers work with what Daemon was saying, unless you're counting like the wilds and stuff. But
he says that he counts the wild ones. He says there are, when he says his numbers, he says there's wild ones on Dragonstone.
Right, but I still couldn't get it to work.
Oh,
we'll
but you're saying
out.
the total number you can't get to. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk that out soon, though.
Yeah, we got a little bit of things to talk about before we get there. I would say, obviously, I don't think we really want to discuss in a ton of detail the miscarriage. While we were watching, there were questions about anything about this baby that is known. The only thing that we know is that it was going to be a daughter, and her name was going to be Visenya, which I mean, it doesn't happen obviously in the books. The scene where with Viserys and Emma, when Emma's in the bath and he says like, we have our own Visenya here with Rhaenyra basically. But I think that was kind of, they don't even mention Visenya's name in this episode for it. So I guess they're kind of just going to let it lie like that. That was just to answer a Bingetown question right there. I'm not sure if anyone out there ever had that question, but
I mean, there's still time too for them to bring it up in the very beginning of season 2 because really everything just happened.
Yeah, and I could easily see them like taking stock and being like, they took Lucerys, they took Visenya, something like that. It might literally happen that way. And like Luke said, they literally have a knack of the next episode of answering questions or solidifying or smoothing something out from the previous episode. It's just we might have to wait 2 years this time instead of 1 week, which is bullshit. But the next thing I want to talk about is just Daemon in general, when he kind of is taking over a little bit while Rhaenyra is obviously preoccupied here. And it's just the kind of the dynamic that we see between Daemon and Jace here, if there's any comments on that. And then the scene with Daemon and Jace and Caraxes kind of confronting the Kingsguard members and making them reaffirm their vows and become basically Queensguard members.
Daemon doing strategy with Rhaenyra screaming in the background is just perfect TV. I mean, well, first of all, the Dragonstone is just all open window type fucking like holes within a cave type thing.
It's literally like built into a mountain-ish kind of thing.
She's literally screaming Daemon's name at one point, and he's just like, anyway, we need to it's good, but it was so well done, and it just made me think of like your leader, your queen is giving birth and is absolutely completely like she can't do anything right now. And that's like a thing I feel when people think about women being leaders. And it's like Rhaenyra is out of commission right now because she's a woman. And it just like made me think like, God, it's so fucking annoying that all this happens and she has to be out of commission right now, because we'll get to it. But later in the episode, when Rhaenys is like, she's the only one keeping her head and not absolutely sending all the nukes in right now, it made me be like, wow, if given the chance, I'm not sure if she will, obviously, Rhaenyra really would be a great queen. She's got a level head. She knows that, like she says, I don't want to rule over Ash. What the fuck? I don't want everyone dead.
She needs to talk to Daenerys, man.
I know, right? I thought the same thing. But
whoa. Drogon could have went rogue, man. We
Yeah, well,
learned something
now-
about these dragons this episode.
She didn't. No, she didn't. No,
Come
no.
on.
Danny
I'm not
is-
kidding, but you did see that the Targaryen apologists were all about Drogon could have, or maybe Daenerys apologists were saying that Drogon could have went rogue and she didn't actually want to do it.
Yeah.
This is some ammo for that, for sure.
Yeah, but I would say the more
All you gotta do
intense
is look at
hatred
her
in her
face.
eyes,
Yeah.
and like, and the feeling of satisfaction afterwards, I think is a
Yeah.
little different than Aemon kind of questioning his own existence.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
you open the floor up for the lesson that Daemon teaches, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about that too.
Yeah, and the Kingsguard stuff. I'm assuming that is the same
Because
thing.
I don't know what it is about Caraxes, but he just gets me, bro. That guy is on
Yeah.
the screen. I'm more hype about Caraxes than even Vhagar. And I thought Vhagar was it, even if Vhagar is the best scene of the season when Aemon tames him.
Mhm.
Caraxes just gets me
Her.
going. Like sorry. And Caraxes is a boy though, right?
Caraxes, yes.
Male.
Caraxes
A boy.
just yeah.
He's a good boy.
Feels
He's a long boy.
exactly. Shut the fuck up. Caraxes just feels like Daemon's dragon. Like you could just the way he
Yeah.
moves. Like all of the dragons look a little evil with like their smirks and stuff, but you could just feel that when looking at Caraxes and how he
Yeah.
moves his neck down to like
Yep.
threaten them. When Daemon says, if you say you're for Rhaenyra and you're not, you're gonna die screaming." Basically, it's just
Right.
the scene was just. The tension was palpable. It was amazing, and Caraxes is awesome. So I
And-
love that whole thing.
And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read when I was looking up some Daemon stuff prior to the show coming out that he is one of the only ones, and it's not shown like this on the show, but he's one of the only ones that will ride dragons without the saddle. That's what I read, at least. Like he can
Really?
ride. I guess Daenerys was doing that technically with Drogon, but I was reading that Daemon back in the day was known as one of the only dragon riders that doesn't use the saddle.
But
That
Daenerys'
is
thing
too
is there were
specific
no
for me to know.
saddles around. Like there wouldn't have
Yeah.
been because
Right, because
No one had
wouldn't
ridden a
have
dragon
faked
in
them.
100
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a fun fact that I would know off the top of my head. But if you read
Okay.
it, I'm sure
I'm
it's
pretty sure I did
probably
read
right.
that. And that's
Mhm.
because for whatever reason of me reading it, it stuck in my head. And then I kept looking for it in the show and they just made him be like everyone else, which is obviously fine. It's not a big deal at all. But it was just something I kept looking for.
Yeah, so we get, and just to, I guess, throw their names out there, we do get, it's a Sir Laurent Marbrand and Sir Stephen Darklin are the two Kingsguard knights. I want to say, I believe that Marbrand is the guy, the bald guy, who does a lot of the kind of like announcing stuff. And then
Right.
Sir Stephen Darklin is kind of the older guy
Okay.
with like the shortcut haircut. The Darklings are just kind of like somewhat of a famous house. I want to say that I read that they have had 7 Kingsguard members throughout their history, which is kind
Damn.
of insane that one house could produce.
You would think that maybe that their house name would die then since they can't father any children.
right?
If
That's actually
7
a
of
great
them are in the
point.
Kingsguard.
That is a great point. So yeah, I guess just to put a name to those faces, classic Game of Thrones. So if there's a lot of characters, it's very hard to remember who they are. So we'll probably, I guess, try to reaffirm that in the future. All right, so moving on from all of that stuff. Oh, and also, the last comment I'll make on this kind of group of scenes in the miscarriage is that this was a perfect F-bomb. We've criticized
Yeah.
F-bombs before.
Yeah.
We've hyped up F-bombs. This was a perfect. This was the best one of
Agreed.
the season.
Agreed.
The one
It's
where
fucking
Lucerys and Jace
happening.
walk in.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
fucking
Oh,
happening.
and that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this was 2 great F-bombs, yeah.
There was a
Yeah,
few
Which one were you talking
Yeah.
about? Which one was
when
the
she
great
just
one?
goes, "Fuck."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's
And-
right as the kids walk in.
Yeah. Let me just really quick rewind for you guys. I just wanted to ask a question. So not Kyle, obviously, but Kathleen and Luke, when they say the baby's coming and they do say out loud that it's premature, and they're also saying, let us help you, let us help you. Were you expecting a miscarriage or were you expecting a baby to come just premature?
I was she's not. We've seen her very pregnant. I think they blatantly showed it like she was not as pregnant as she was before. Although I will
Right.
say, not to get into semantics or whatever, it felt like a very fully formed baby. That
That's
foot
what I'm
was like a
saying. Yeah,
legit
well,
foot.
yeah.
I feel like it was maybe a little misstep on their part on like how formed that baby was. But watching her birth it, even the midwife people were like, Jesus Christ.
by
Like,
the
even
time
they
she
were
was like,
grossed out by
yeah,
it.
by the time she was standing in the corner doing the thing herself, I figured, okay, this isn't gonna be good. But like the moment she has the contractions, when she first goes into the room, and then they're talking to Daemon, I was like, okay, maybe again, there's a lot of middle stuff that I don't know. So I didn't know that there was going to be a baby born or a miscarriage, whatever it was. So I was expecting just the baby to be born and she was going to be like out of commission with the baby for a second.
Yeah. I mean, just to wrap it up, I mean, literally, that is so devastating. Our girl Rhaenyra has been through so much this season. I mean, it's been what, 20 some years, and we've seen her go through a lot. And this is absolutely fucking brutal. We've seen how good of a mom she is. She loses 2 kids this episode. She hand wraps the baby herself for the funeral. It is so fucked up and sad. And I mean, Rhaenyra crushes it as a character. She's
such
so
good
fucking
acting.
Yeah. A+ from Emma.
How do we feel about the way that Daemon grieved by not going to her? Is that more him letting her have her space, or was that him not being empathetic when he just walks in, sees her crying, and then just walks out without saying anything?
I think it's how he does it. It's classic Daemon.
He's
Okay.
He
he's
has
so
a moment.
interesting.
He has a moment on the beach that's like him himself, like breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
He's
a
such a
very,
wet-
very quick scene, though. I mean, again, they almost tried to sneak it past us. It felt like.
Right.
I feel like the scene of them looking down at the baby before they cremate the baby is supposed to be another scene of them two together. I mean, Rhaenyra doesn't ever look at Daemon, but Daemon looks at her, and they're standing there. I feel like if it was like Lena, he wouldn't even have showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have just not even really cared. He would have been like giggling like he was at Lena's funeral.
They had fun.
Okay,
enough,
well, he had a
Kathleen.
reason for that.
I know, but still.
He had a reason for that.
Well,
I
yeah,
know.
Daemon is just so interesting. He really is. Like, I had no idea this episode, as it's going on, what he was going to do. You know, at first, at any moment, I was like, is he going to not be on Rhaenyra's side? Like, I'm not going to say super surprised, but I was like on the edge of my seat thinking it, you know, what is he going to do? And then he puts the crown on her head. Like, every moment I was
Like the Jace thing was a little like, was he gonna?
Even the part, like, Kathleen, to what you're saying, she's having this baby, she's screaming, and he's giving his you know, whatever, his battle orders, and she's saying, you're not going to do anything until I give you the orders or until I give the okay. And he's just doing whatever he wants. And then he even says, like, personally, I'm going to take corrections and go to this place. And obviously that's probably flashbacks to Rhaenyra from her ex-husband, who wanted to sandbag her and go on his ship and disappear when shit was getting bad for them, you know, before they went to Dragonstone. And, you know, and then, you know, the Jace thing where Jace is coming in saying mom says this, and he just straight up ignores him. And I was wondering how he was going to react. And it just, I guess it was the nicest way possible of ignoring him and then just be like, you want to see loyalty, and like kind of takes him out of the room. But he basically did say, like, yeah, little boy, get the hell out of here. Let me give the orders. I just didn't know. Like, I was like, is he just going to take over this whole situation, even over Rhaenyra? But he didn't. And I mean, it's just, he's just super interesting.
The next scene kind of disproves that when Sir Eric comes and
So this funeral scene's
this
amazing.
amazing coronation scene, this impromptu coronation we get for Rhaenyra is like so moving and powerful. And Daemon, they get that shot, that direction of the cameras underneath the crown, and it looks like straight up to Daemon, and then he gives it to her, he kneels and he says, my queen. What did you guys think about Rhaenys being the only one not kneeling? Because she was truly like, Corlys will decide whether or not we're kneeling to you or not. Because she's the only one of that entire place that didn't kneel. I didn't catch that until the second watch.
I think it was basically that. It just stemmed from the fact that earlier in this episode, we found out Corlys's fever broke, which was not expected, but it did.
Right.
So he was going to heal up and actually be a person still. So I think it was all just about letting him decide and her just kind of remaining neutral, even though she is very loyal to her house. I felt the same way when I took my notes the second time watching. I was like, why is she the only one that didn't kneel? But I guess she was just going to let Corlys do it.
It's very in character, I feel like.
She's such a bad bitch. I love her.
Yeah,
She's not doing anything she doesn't want to do. She's the best.
Okay, I mean, so that's kind of everything from the funeral, unless anyone has anything else, because obviously the War Council is a little bit of a funner.
Remind me which Eric is on this side, A or E?
E.
This is E.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So number 2 in the alphabet, number 1 in your heart.
Gotcha. That's
I
how
was
forever remember it
surprised.
now.
Whether this is naive of me or not, I was surprised he showed up with Viserys's crown for her. I just thought it was going to be, hey, Rhaenys, tell him about how I got you out of King's Landing and vouch for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also interesting that, and this is obviously just very quick comment, in that they kind of changed this around. So in the books, Eric is already on Dragonstone, and Sir Stephen Darkland is the one who brings the crown.
Okay.
And I think that they wanted to lean in a little bit into like they wanted to have more of that, like the twin brothers on opposite sides. So they have
So
Eric.
epic.
Yeah, they have
Luke,
Eric bring the crown.
Luke, was it you that said we're going to have a Mountain versus the Hound situation with them?
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping that they make it to the last season, because if we can continuously build this up, maybe give them a quick clash in like season 2 or 3, and then make it like an epic fight, it can hit as hard as the Mountain versus the Hound.
Back in the day, and I know some identical twins, and eventually you can figure it out. I mean, it's rare where they're so identical where even if you know them for a long time, you can't figure it out. But I would honestly, if I was Rhaenyra, I'd be like, oh my God, are you the one? Are you okay? Are you team green or are you team black? Like, help me out here, man.
It wouldn't even matter to them at that point. Like, they don't care whether he's Eric or Eric. They just care that he has the crown.
I mean, like,
and
one's on your side, the other one's on the other side, and you're just like, enough. Whoa.
How do you trust one of them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How do you trust that it's the right one that's actually team green or team black?
Maybe they don't.
Just give me that crown.
Maybe they don't. Okay. So moving now into the War Council. So we get the actual first action as Rhaenyra as queen. The scene of the little bit of slow motion where she's flanked by all the soldiers and she looks fucking awesome as queen with Viserys' crown. She rolls in, and we also get the painted table, and it lights up from underneath, which is fucking awesome. That was a
collective applause.
I was just about to say, I feel like that got a big applause from our crowd.
Yeah, it was really fun. And there's also been some funny stuff on the internet of like how Stannis and Daenerys had literally no idea. And then people taking it a step further of like, it's meta, it makes sense that all of the Targaryen lore got lost because there's none of them left and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, I guess that.
And people are rightly saying that should have been the intro instead of whatever we got as like the intro scene into the show. Because if we could have made it that cool, like fire map, like it would have been better.
Oh, I think the intro of the episode. Cool. I was like, that seems like jumping the gun a little bit, but yes.
Sorry,
that's a fair
the intro
point,
into
man.
episodes.
Yeah, maybe it will be for season 2. Maybe they'll be like, wow, people loved it so much that we're gonna change the opening intro. So we get this amazing Daemon announcing her. She is Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, the first of her name, Queen of the Andals and the Rhaenyar and the First Men, Lady of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm. So everyone bows except for Rhaenys. She's staying in character. And then we kind of just get to chatting about where we're at. It's just the extension almost of the other Daemon scene, but now Rhaenyra is kind of taking control, and they're all reporting to her. So I have some little lore things, but that can kind of come at the end. It's just whatever we want to talk about.
Quick question. So which Baela or Rhaena is with Luke?
Baela. Or no, I'm sorry, Rhaena.
And Rhaena has the dragon or no?
Rhaena does not have the dragon.
Baela has Moondancer.
Okay, so Rhaena now doesn't have Luke or a dragon, correct?
Correct, yes. And both of them from her.
She needs to go get Laenor's dragon right the fuck now. She needs to get back to Driftmark and get Laenor's dragon like immediately. And that's my call. Just because when they talk about the dragons that are still loose.
Wait, you talking about Vhagar?
No, Laenor's. That was Laena's dragon.
Oh, I thought you said Laena. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, because now Sea Smoke is also unclaimed. And I was like, okay, we gotta, go get your fucking uncles, whatever. You know what I mean? Go get the goddamn dragon. That should be number 1. They should have done that like 1,000 years ago. But this sounds so fucking stupid because this is literally called House of the Dragon and it's the Dance of the Dragons and shit like that.
Dragons aren't real.
This one really made me go, wow, dragons are fucking important. I totally understand Otto's face when he finds out that Aemon got Vhagar and is like, shit, like, like that is such a move because this matters. The shots with Vhagar over Arrax is the coolest shot of the entire fucking show to me. I'm like, that is like so fucking sick, and it's all CGI. And
Those
it's
visuals. Oh my goodness.
Let's
so
just do
awesome.
this now then, because I totally agree with you, Kathleen. Like, it's dragons are such a backdrop of Game of Thrones that for years, anybody that didn't watch Game of Thrones was like, oh, was that the dragon show? But this is the first time we're using them when we're counting military strength and counting troops. Like, this is
right.
incredible. Like, and of course, it's got to be led by Daemon, which is what I was kind of going on that rant earlier, why he's so confident and cocky, saying we can end this tonight. But so the count that I have, that he just goes in and names them, and I'm sorry about the pronunciations here. Maybe Kyle, do you have them all written down? You rather just do it, yeah, rip them.
So we have Cyrax, who is Rhaenyra's, Caraxes is Daemon, Meleys is Rhaenys, and again, she gives him a look like, bitch, you already counted me, I didn't say shit.
Right.
And then Vermax is going to be Jace's dragon, Arax is going to be Luke's dragon, Tyraxis is going to be Joffrey. So little Joffrey's dragon is Tyraxis.
Aww.
It's so funny. It sounds like such a little kid, like a T-Rex. That's why. I like it.
Right. Little dinosaur.
Yeah, and then Bela rides Moon Dancer. So that is 7 that have legitimate riders. And then there's 6 unclaimed dragons. So Sea Smoke does not have a rider at this point. Vermithor is the one that he names. It used to be ridden by King Jaehaerys, who's the old king we saw in the opening of the entire season. And then
that's the one he sings to, right?
That is the one he sings to, correct. And then Silverwing. And then he also says that there are 3 more wild dragons on Dragonstone. They don't have names or anything. They're just there.
So all of the ones with names were claimed by someone, but aren't anymore. And then the wild dragons were born, and are hatched, but never claimed.
Correct.
And then he said he has some eggs still.
Yeah.
Yes, and he has some eggs incubated, which we saw him get. I don't remember if that was 2 episodes ago.
Right.
2 episodes.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to bring up, because that is so fucking cool that he's the way he said it. I wish I wrote down exactly what he says, but he's basically just like facilitating the hatching of these eggs. It's in some level. And this got me thinking back to I'm hoping like the reason he has some of this knowledge, or just the way he's leaning so into the dragons, kind of reflects on that scene when he's back in Pentos, was he when he was in
Pentos,
and he was doing all the readings and stuff. It kind of makes that scene hit a little better, because like this is what he was prepping for, and kind of like being aware of all this stuff. So I love that it's Daemon that's like actually like setting the foundation for future dragons and generations of them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But we might as well also mention the 3 greens here: Sunfire, Vhagar, and Dreamfire, right? That's the only 3 they have.
Yes, but he says
Didn't they say they have 3?
I thought it was 13-4, but now that you're saying that, that's got to be right, because I can't think of a single
Aegon,
Aemond, Aegon,
and Helena. Yeah,
and Helena.
But see, that's the thing. We've talked about this before. There's a 4th.
They have kids.
There's a 4th kid. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and well,
his name's Daron, and Daron has a dragon. So I don't know.
Well, there you go. That's
got to be 4.
Did they say 3 or 4 though?
I wrote down 13-4.
Okay, so
I could
the producers of House of the Dragon said that they are going to bring the 4th kid in. He just isn't showing up. George R. Martin said it too. He's in
Old Town.
Where's Allison from again? Old Town. Yeah. He's from Old. He's in Old Town right now. So maybe they're just counting his.
That might be like literally like the littlest, tiniest, smallest Easter egg. Like, hey, we didn't forget about him. Here's the little count.
And
if you actually think about it,
they should have done a better job. There's no reason to make that like a hidden Easter egg at all. Just say it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Say, here's our 4th son. It is funny, and this is past due. Like, doesn't need to be talked too much about. But back when Viserys was alive, it is funny how you're literally seeing Aegon, Aemon, Helena, and you're like, those are his kids. But I was hardly thinking of it that way, because I'm thinking Rhaenyra is like, and they just seem, because of all the incest and all that stuff, it just seems like they're his like grandkids or some nephews and nieces or something, when they're direct children to him.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with that.
It took me a little bit to see that. Kyle, a question for you, and I don't know again if there's an answer, but I don't even know if there's an answer in lore yet, like answered by George R. Martin. But you know how the dragons died out, and Game of Thrones are saying how they got smaller and smaller and smaller. Like, is that happening right now already? Because we have the 2 oldest are the 2 biggest, right?
Yeah, I would say that's not currently happening. No.
Okay, so they just so happen to be smaller. The young, like Vhagar is supposed to be the oldest and he's the biggest, but it just so happens that the other dragons are smaller. It's just not really a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the dragons are pretty much every dragon is as old as their rider almost at this point,
Yeah.
or younger technically.
Right. Okay. So basically what
Yeah.
I'm saying is a younger one can get huge at some
Oh
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
eventually.
right.
Yeah, for sure. Like Vermithor is the second oldest dragon, I'm pretty sure, and Vermithor is also the second largest dragon.
Well, okay. That's what I was getting at. I just didn't know if it meant like in general as the ages are going on, they're capping how big they'll get based on how everything's been going in history, or if it's just they're younger.
Yeah, no. It's also so the dragon pit is something that they built, and dragons are like, and I might be mistaking the animal, but I think it's sharks or turtles too. Right?
Turtles, Luke's
Tortoises.
turtle.
Yeah, they
can get bigger
grow
with the cage.
to
Yeah.
the size of their enclosure, basically.
Yeah.
So that's why also the dragon pit is a thing that was built. So like Balerion didn't fucking hang out in the dragon pit. Vhagar didn't hang out in the dragon pit.
Right.
So, or I mean, Vhagar might have. I might be mixing it up, but Balerion definitely did not hang out in the dragon pit. I mean, that motherfucker was way too big for it. So it's also the fact of they've been living like they make layers for themselves, and
that's
go
crazy.
from layer to layer, I'm sure as well.
We'll get to it, but it is crazy how Vermithor just decided, like, hey, I'm gonna hide in this cave after my rider died. I mean, I would be like, if I'm a dragon, man, I'd just be living it, like basically Drogon. Like, I'm just doing my thing.
Well, Vermithor, I'm sure does that. I'm sure they gets out and flies.
Yeah,
There's also like the fact that they know about the 3 other wild dragons means that they don't just hang out in caves.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess continue with the dragon talk too. Daemon mentions that the eggs are incubating in Dragon Mount. Just a little, obviously not a Wheel of Time reference, but obviously a big part of Wheel of Time is Dragon Mount. Dragon Mount is just the volcano that basically created the island of Dragonstone.
Okay, cool.
I've called Dragonstone Dragon Mount because I've been
I'm
doing Wheel of Time right now.
right.
Listening to this, like it's fucking with me so badly.
So I just want to talk about so beyond the dragons, we'll talk about some real people, things that are real, because dragons aren't real.
Here first.
Yeah, Maester, I believe it's either Gerardus or Gerardus is Rhaenyra's Maester that she has with him. He kind of just lists off some names. So we get Celtigar, Staunton, Massey, Darkland, and Bar Emin are the houses that have currently declared for Rhaenyra. We really don't know those houses, so obviously they're kind of not that big of houses. Celtigar, though, is an old Valyrian house, though. The third Valyrian house that made it out of Old Valyria. They've always just kind of been riders for the Targaryens, kind of similar to the Valyrians. But then they do bring up some big dogs. So we talk about Riverrun. We get Grover Tully. So the Tullys, who's Catelyn's family, they will end up playing a role in this. The Tullys actually have a great role to play in this entire story.
Okay.
We get reminded that Rhaenyra's mom is an Arryn. They mention the Starks and the Baratheons. I got my Stark flag flying for this reason. I'm just going to say the quote of there has never lived a Stark who forgot an oath. So hell yeah. And then we also get kind of just talking about the Baratheons in general, and maybe they're proud, they need to remember the oath and things like that. I just thought this scene was like such a fucking lore, like nerd dump. It was great because we get all the houses, we get all the dragon names. So this was one of definitely my favorite scenes of the episode.
Yeah, that was really cool. And just really quick, what did you guys think about how Rhaenyra, once she actually walks into this room, she looked nervous. She looked uncomfortable. How did you guys read that? When did you expect her to just like walk in like she was gonna run shit? Was that like what you were expecting, where she just came in, she felt a little uncomfortable, seemed like all right, here it is, it's time. What did you think, Kathleen? I know you're getting ready to say something.
My hot take comes in the next scene, so I'll hold on that. But for Rhaenyra, because she like takes a step and the 4 guys behind her take up and then they like walk back because she's like, lay off. It was clumsy in the beginning, but she gets her footing. She does. I didn't overthink it. I think that was her first scene as queen where she had to run shit, so she was a little uneasy at first and then just dove into it. But I think so much is up in the air right now. And I think something she says later, she's like, before I absolutely nuke everyone in this place, let me figure out who my allies are first. And then we'll go. And I think that's so sound. And I think Rhaenyra was the only person acting with like, I mean, she's not a man, right? And like even Corlys is like, you do not wish to act? The fuck? She's like, relax. I got this.
So she's been trained.
it was like
Yeah.
a little bit case of imposter syndrome just for a second. Then she kind of got,
Yeah.
like Kathleen's saying, she got her stride.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's silence right there when she's feeling uncomfortable. Kyle, you're on mute.
It makes her feel very. It makes her feel very human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that silence. I was like, say something. Say something.
I mean, Luke called her perfect, not you, Luke. Luke within the show calls her perfect, and then she has like a little bit of a clumsiness later. It's just kind of showing that she's not right.
Right.
Like,
For sure. So I guess Kathleen's going to tease us with a hot take, so we might as well move on to Meeting on the Bridge Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. So we get pretty much...
I'm nervous about her hot take now.
Yeah.
episode.
What are you gonna say about this scene?
Luke, remind me of the episode. Is it 2 or 3? Because you love this scene, the original.
I think it was 3 because I was
Yeah,
I was
believe it's
writing that
3.
in the notes.
Yeah.
The scene where she
Okay.
comes in and saves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we have pretty much the exact setup. Otto marches up, Daemon marches up to meet him with some people behind him, and then Rhaenyra lands behind Otto's squad on Cyrex. Obviously, we've grown up a little bit, and the meaning behind this meeting has changed, so it doesn't quite go the way that it went the first time.
so my hot take in this incredible scene, by the way, and I ride for Rhaenyra this entire episode to the death. But my hot take is that it's kind of embarrassing to be her right now, wearing the crown whilst Aegon is already the king in King's Landing, where there is all the people she needs to rule, and she is on Dragonstone with about like 50 people tops, being like, "I'm the queen," and it's like that's a little embarrassing, girl.
Well, just
like,
think about Game of Thrones. I mean,
Daenerys, yeah, totally.
no, well, yeah, but
Oh.
I'm saying early Game of Thrones when all the kings were the king of the north and and Joffrey and they're all separated, saying I'm the king, man.
And when I say that, I mean Rhaenyra is my queen. I'm only getting secondhand embarrassment because this is a shitty situation, and she's like doing her absolute best to be like, I'm the queen. But her point of this entire episode is like, is my job in this as the heir to make sure I'm the queen at all costs, or is
Right.
it to make sure that King's Landing is good to go and has a kid? You know what I mean? Like that there's peacetime. Do I start a war just because I need to be on the throne? And I think that she's battling with that in this, and I also think that in this scene, Otto has amazing terms. By the way, fuck this guy, but his terms are fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Like.
As
Everything
good as you
about
could
it's
ask
good.
for.
And then
Yeah.
Daemon comes in and absolutely just like shits on him, like on his face.
Well-
It's like, I'd rather feed my kids to the dragons
Yeah.
than be your cunt usurper ass.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said it, Kathleen. But is it a hot take for me to say? Like, I feel like Rhaenyra would have been on Daemon's side and would have been ready to throw down if he didn't give her the paper towards the end of it. You don't.
No, that's a hot take, I think.
That is.
Well,
a hot take.
I guess
Okay.
yes, that's a hot take. As
Yeah.
No, I disagree with it.
So you don't think that Daemon would? I'm not saying that she would have said, Daemon, chop his freaking head off, but like she would have been more ready to actually accept the war.
I don't think so.
So
I
then
feel like
what's the
she's
point of the
still like.
paper?
I think she's still like. She's almost having a little bit of a naivete, you could say. Ooh, that was a good rhyme. About the fact that the war is coming. I don't think she's completely oblivious. I think she's going to do whatever she can to stop it. The point of the paper, I think, was again to try to get us to think about this whole Alicent and Rhaenyra relationship,
Queer baiting.
or that. Yeah,
Mhm. Those undertones, Kathleen.
Jimmy, are you
I don't-
gay?
You gay?
yeah. I don't know how much it actually could. Like, she's already fairly gung ho anti-war. I don't think there's no way for Alicent to know that.
Mhm,
I think is kind of where it is. Again, we've talked about this before on the podcast of the communication isn't amazing. Part of that is because the only way they can talk to each other is by
Yeah, they're
writing on
not
a piece of
texting.
paper and sending it on a fucking bird. But I don't think the paper really changed much for her. If anything, it makes her more sad about what's to come. She literally cries a tear.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that was what like confirmed her position. Like, okay, I'll wait it out. Like, again, I'm not saying I thought she was gonna say, Daemon, take Otto's head and like start this war. But I mean, they pulled their swords out on her and Daemon. You know, I don't know, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well, I guess Daemon unsheathes his sword first.
Yeah, as per usual.
I'm a Daemon
Yeah.
apologist, dude.
Yeah.
Daemon
I just-
does no wrong except for choking Rhaenyra. I didn't like that.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I just need to bring up here because this is the start of the twin rivalry, right? Because we get an absolute cool badass just stare down between the two, and I'm all in. Like I already said, like I want them to be very, very explicit about building this rivalry up. We need things like this that are not the main Targaryens that
I agree.
keep us keep us very, very passionate about the show and like look forward to satisfying conclusions. And this is the perfect situation because I think the first thing that happens, which I really loved, is when Rhaenyra just walks right up to Otto and just rips the hand piece off and chucks it off the bridge. And then that's when the stare down happens. And then that's when Daemon whips out his sword. And then that's when fucking Cyrax screams at the same time. Like so many epic things happen over the course of a minute that it was basically as I was as hype about this one as I was in episode 3. And the same thing happened, right? Like it was so freaking epic.
So on my defense here, Kyle, tell me, I can't remember fully. I did watch twice, but don't they pull the swords after she rips the hand off? Then Daemon pulls his sword, or is it Daemon? Then
No,
I'm
it's
pretty
at the
sure.
end. It's at the
I
end.
thought that there's a scene where when she rips the hand and throws it off, they all start going like this and pulling at their sword.
No, she
That's
takes
the
the pen off
Kingsguard,
and calls him a traitor.
Mhm.
And then, well, I don't know if that's a good question in terms of if the swords come out, because Rhaenyra at that point cries, and then Otto says that Alicent wants an answer. I'm pretty sure.
Then it goes, Daemon is like, whoosh, no,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself. And then Rhaenyra is like, stop. You'll
Yeah,
have your
'cause-
answer
well,
tomorrow.
Daemon says she can have her answer stuffed in her dead father's mouth along with his withered cock, and then he pulls his sword out and says, because he says, let's end this mummer's farce. And I'm pretty sure that is the quote as he pulls the sword out.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
dragon scream.
Like that
so
seems like a
good.
let's end this mummer's farce. Like I'm gonna pull my sword out now.
Love it.
Can we just say that Rhaenyra owns Daemon on this like bridge in Dragonstone? Just totally.
Yeah,
He's- every
that's
time
her
he's
bridge,
like,
man.
stop. He's like, sad face.
Yeah.
Like he's just like fine. He's
But
like
this
so
isn't good.
pussy
This
whipped.
was Rhaenyra being a little puss. Just fucking end it all.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean-
if honestly, if anything, Otto kind of dominates all of them a little bit, just in terms of, he is always so good. They give him great quotes, and a lot of it they do pull straight out of it, straight out of the book, that is. And I guess to reiterate the terms here is that they can all bend the knee. She can keep Dragonstone. Luke can have Driftmark. All her sons, the two sons by Daemon will be court members. That's why Daemon's like, fuck you, they're not going to the court. I'd rather feed it to my dragons.
Right.
And then he starts going off about all the traditional symbols. So he sits the Iron Throne. He has the Conqueror's name. He has the Conqueror's crown. He has the Conqueror's sword. And he has the blessing of the High Septon in front of the masses. And we've already sent offers to the Starks, to the Tullys, to the Baratheons. So at this point, Otto's slapping his dick on the table. And it's like, the only option for you guys is to take this offer. Because if not, you're obviously just going to die. And they don't take it, because they're obviously not about it. That's when he slips the page where he's like, okay, maybe we'll try this emotional thing. And obviously Rhaenyra tells him, like, yeah, we'll give you your answer. The answer is not going to be yes to the terms.
Right. And Game of Thrones, this specifically, but it happens all the time in the original show too. Like they put a lot into the honor and tradition of these meetups. Like Otto comes to this meetup knowing that Rhaenyra's dragon's right behind him. Daemon's right there. Like, Daemon was ready to throw down, but for the most part, it ends with them being like, I'm mad at you, but you're here as a messenger and I'm going to let you go home. But like, Jesus, if I'm him, I'd be exactly like Luke was going to the Baratheon and then seeing Aemon being like, I'm shitting my pants here, man. Like I'm about to die probably.
Well, honestly, for Otto, I feel like he doesn't want to die, but I think him dying there,
he knows
for him is almost a worthy cause. Like he's willing to be that martyr.
Right.
To die
Fucking
there.
Otto. I would have loved to be right, and he died there, just for the record.
That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
For a
he's gonna
second, I
make
thought
it
I
to
was gonna
season
be
2,
right.
though.
Yeah. I'm trying to think that there's two little things I wanted to bring up. One, to jump off Luke's point of the Eric and Eric of these side plot lines. I just like how much now, like we're getting mentions of the Starks, the Tullys, the Baratheons in like every scene. I just think it's good that in the finale, they're pulling in all of these other houses of giving us this kind of wink, wink, these crumbles of like, this will happen in the next season, giving us a little bit of that teaser where Luke says we're going to have other storylines kind of beyond this main conflict. They will play into the main conflict themselves, but they kind of are their own thing, which me personally, I'm really looking forward to because a lot of them are very good. And the second thing is that the page itself obviously means something, but people were talking about this online, and I actually like kind of the symbolism of it in that the page is Nymeria, so Queen Nymeria, who fled Essos because she was being hunted by dragons, to then come to Westeros and find safety for her people. So people were also thinking there's a little bit of like a subliminal messaging of Alicent being like, hey, like, maybe you should just get out of here. Like if you just leave Westeros, like you can live with your family and be happy.
Right.
We'll do our thing over here. And, you know, we don't have to, it doesn't have to come to this.
Yeah, we've been giving her props. I mean, you know, last episode really she shined with that. You know, everyone wanted to get rid of Rhaenyra and her entire family, especially Daemon, and she was ready to let them somehow slip away or any kind of way to keep them alive as long as Aegon becomes king still. Just let them somehow live with this.
Yeah. It's honestly,
Even
I mean,
though-
it's perfect parallel to Rhaenyra this episode, where Rhaenyra is
Right.
the only person in the room who's like, let's not go to war. Like, we can
Right.
figure this out a different way. And Alicent last episode was the only one of like, let's not do this. Like, we can figure it out.
You know what's really interesting is that Otto didn't even say it was King Viserys' last wish or anything. So Rhaenyra is still absolutely in the dark about the fact that this like flub of Aegon's prophecy
feel like-
bullshit.
I
Otto
feel
doesn't
like if
care.
Good.
I mean, I feel like if Otto said that, that might have been like really hothead Daemon being like, "Yeah, right, bro," and then the sword would have came out a lot earlier. Like, but
But that's not the point, though. The point is that Rhaenyra is still unaware that the prophecy is what's driving this sudden change.
Yep.
And my biggest thing was the second Rhaenyra hears that, she should be able to talk this out. Not
Mhm.
easily, but like she should be able to. And I'm actually happy that Otto didn't say that. I didn't even think about that till you just brought it up right now, which is good.
I really think it's that Otto doesn't give a fuck.
yeah,
Well, that
yeah.
too, but
The
I mean, it
only
wasn't
person,
purposeful.
the only person in King's Landing that cares is Alicent.
Otto would be having that exact conversation on that exact bridge if Viserys just died
True.
quietly.
Yeah, he does not give a fuck. Honestly, if anything, it's for him. It's like, okay, it'll fucking make Alicent like be on our team and not maybe like shy
Yeah.
away from this, because like that's the only utility he sees in that.
Mhm.
And going back to the Eric and Eric thing really quick, that's just super interesting just for a couple of things here. Like Kyle, you were talking about how it's hard to communicate, obviously, besides birds, no texting, no phone, no nothing like that. You're not webcamming with each other.
Just
you know,
very
like we are.
quickly, can you imagine social media like while this was happening?
Team Aegon, baby.
Yeah.
Hashtag let's go.
Honestly, I mean, we're
Those
getting
pictures are
it.
getting crazy in
Yeah,
King's
we're
Landing.
basically
Like,
getting Team Black and Team Green on Twitter and stuff.
We are
like-
getting it. The
yeah.
Bingetown, like our feed for Bingetown, like TV, our podcast,
Yeah.
Twitter account is like, it makes me uncomfortable sometimes. Just people are serious. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
people are dead serious, and we've been getting that as we've been finding more and more of this as the podcast has been going on, by especially talking to a lot of the stars of the shows about how certain fans like really, really, really take these things seriously and send messages, emails, whatever it is to these people acting like it's the show's real. But going back to the Eric and Eric thing, like Eric is our homie, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Eric
Number
obviously
2 in the alphabet, number 1 in your heart.
there you go. So, you know, everyone's their own main character in their own story. So it would be really cool to think about like Eric showing up on the bridge. And obviously there's these rumors, like where did Eric go? Did he help Rhaenys? Did you know, someone stole the crown? Like what's going on? And then he finally like walks up and sees Eric and he's like, oh shit, it's true. Like that was kind of something that was interesting to me.
Yeah. And he did abandon him in that fight. I mean,
Yeah.
they were kind of racing to get Eric and to get Aegon, and he does abandon him. So I'm sure there's obviously he's not too happy about it.
We should get it's like the Twilight books, man. We should get a spinoff of just Eric's point of view, the entire show, just from Eric's point of view.
That would be nuts. It would be so boring.
All we'd be doing is right.
He would just be standing outside
Eric's
of
point
doors.
of view, it would just be him with Aegon being like, this kid's a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah. And that would be so much Kristen Cole. Oh my god.
oh my, yeah,
Well,
that's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
There would be a
Don't
lot
want
of
none
Kristen
that.
Cole in that show.
Don't want none of that.
You mean my
Catherine.
least favorite person of this episode.
Yeah, so
Oh,
let's
this episode, he's not even in it.
let's cleanse our palate of the Kristen Cole talk with another war council. So honestly, it's like half a war council. It's just this is that big Rhaenyra and Daemon scene that Jimmy had mentioned earlier. That was a little bit, not even a little bit. It's anti-Daemon, negative for Daemon, but obviously something we will talk about. Just I guess quick preview or just a brief overview of what they talk about first, because obviously we want to talk about just the two of them. Daemon again is just really pushing this point about the dragons. He is kind of watching Rhaenyra. He literally says to her, "That's your father talking."
Yeah.
She is still like we're not doing this, and Daemon says like the enemy have declared war, like what are you going to do about it? And she immediately just says clear the room.
Yep.
Which was badass. And then they all leave, and then they have this conversation about what the fuck's actually going on between the two of them.
It's a tough thing to have happen. Daemon's been riding or dying with Rhaenyra. There's a lot of great scenes where like they're holding hands and he's putting the crown on her head and my queen and all this stuff. But saying that right in front of everybody before she says clear the room, like that's pretty bad. Like, if it wasn't Daemon, you'd be getting your tongue out.
Mm-hmm. The fact that this whole conversation just devolves into, I don't know why Rhaenyra would have thought that Daemon knew about the prophecy or why he would even care, because he's basically he's like
he was the heir for a
right?
while.
Yeah, he's the heir. So
that's so true.
You would think that he would be the next. Like he would be the one who has to know if he's taken over.
I thought he was the heir assumed or whatever.
Yeah, but no matter what, like forever, Viserys had no children or male heir, so it was Daemon. So you would think that Viserys would have been like, "Listen, man, if I die, you got to know this."
Yeah, that's very true. Never mind, take it back.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way that, again, a lot of this stuff especially with a scene like this, it's behind the scenes stuff kind of helps explain it a little more, because to us it's just so shocking. It's difficult to kind of think through what's actually happening. But the explanation a little bit that they gave was that so Daemon is just upset, obviously, in general. So he she is spouting all of this dreamer stuff, and that's when he's like, yo, like, what the fuck? Like, my brother was a slave to his omens and portents. Anything to make his feckless reign appear to have purpose. Dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. That's him, like, that's decades of frustration.
Oh, yeah.
There, almost coming to a boil of, like, he watched kind of not helplessly, but pretty much helplessly as Viserys in his mind was weak and fucked things up and never actually gave him the chance he thought he could have. And now he's kind of getting that chance a little bit with Rhaenyra, and he's watching her go down that same exact road that he was watching Viserys go down, and he's just kind of sick of it. And the only thing he has is to physically lash out, and that's pretty much what happens.
That's a good point. It's decades of frustrations, and it is like Daemon hearing, these omens or her talking about dreamer stuff, he has the same as her this day or I don't know if it's the same day or if it's however much time's passed since, their child died, their war is being threatened. Everything about them is being threatened. He is taking major offense, obviously, and he's saying himself, like, why are you not taking offense that this freaking usurper took your throne? And we got to the point and we talked about it where it is a good line. Like, I agree with her. Like, is it more important for me to be on the throne or for Westeros to be at peace? I'm not saying, I'm more on a, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation to have, like whose side you're on, Daemon or Viserys, or in this situation, or because Rhaenyra is kind of acting like Viserys, but she's not wrong at all. That's what that's what won Rhaenys over. The whole thing saying, we're not gonna turn this entire place into ash just so I can be on the throne, and that's a lesson a lot of our, I guess, future kings need to learn.
Well, I mean, Daemon saying the dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did. He's putting a lot of faith in dragons and shit. And at the end of this episode, we obviously see Vhagar and Arrax not listening to their dragon riders, which is a change from the books, right, Kai? So, like, changing that, regardless, let's just go show canon. Like he's like dragon, like we're kings because we're dragon riders or whatever. But if you can't control your dragons, like how powerful actually are you, just in general?
Well, I think it's interesting that Daemon clearly has a lot of respect for Targaryen tradition and history. And it's interesting that he's almost kind of picking and choosing what parts of it he likes. Like he's obviously so gung ho into the dragon aspect and like the blood magic part of it. Like they had the whole traditional ceremony. He is, singing these like not ancient hymns, I don't even want to say, but whatever that song ended up being to Vermithor, like he knows a lot about the dragon side of things, and that is the part of the Targaryens that he is like super duper into. So, and Daemon won't have the issue with Caraxes of like not listening. Like I don't think that that's something that they'll get at with them. That would honestly, I think, upset me personally. Because I feel like Daemon and Caraxes have this bond because Daemon is so steeped into like the ancient Targaryen magic of dragon riding. Like he's about it. That's his life. I just think it's interesting that the other side of it, a big part of the Targaryen lore and tradition, everything too, is the dreamer part of it. I mean, we have Daenys, which is official book canon, is Daenys the dreamer warned the family to get out of Old Valyria, and that's why they are still alive. Now we have the new show canon that it's anticipated to be book canon of Aegon's dream is what made him conquer the Seven Kingdoms, and it's just interesting that Daemon is kind of he's so gung-ho Targaryen, but he's so gung-ho one part of the Targaryens. I guess he's just like Jimmy had said earlier, he's such an interesting character because of all of these like contradictions and differences and dichotomies inside of him. He's fucking phenomenal. Don't support him choking his wife, obviously.
Right.
But I
right.
just
Fuck
think
him.
everything behind it is what makes his character interesting.
Well
Agreed.
said. I feel like we can put a bow on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that they get into maybe with Aemond and Lucerys that it was just more the fact like they're newer dragon riders with their dragons, and Drogon was giving Daenerys plenty of shit at times,
Yeah.
so maybe it's just if they're newer, like I would agree with you, Kyle. It would be kind of annoying if we get to the fact that they're trying to explain that Daemon or Rhaenys or any of them are having issues with their dragon. It kind of fits if you really want to make it fit where Rhaenyra did say, in the books, in the histories, when dragons go to war, nothing's left at the end of it. And it makes sense. Like you see these two dragons go to battle, they just start throwing down. They don't care about the riders. They don't care about their surroundings. Maybe that's what they're trying to get at. But at the same time, it would annoy me if it's like, later on, Daemon's like, no, Craxies, listen to me.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I think that's the point of it, though. I think it is that Aemon has only had. I mean, Vhagar's 100 and fucking something, 80 years old or something crazy like that. Aemon's been riding her for 6 years, if that, and he only just started doing this. It's not like he's been training since he was a little boy to do this. So I think that's the part of it, and we can obviously talk maybe a little bit more about that if it comes up on the road to that scene. But to get us there. Good.
Yeah, really quick though. Did you guys see the tweet where someone was like, man, young Aemon needed like 6 ladders to get to the top of Vhagar to be able to ride her? And because they show the scene, but they show like a pan out and obviously how big she is and how young and little he is. And it should have been, like, hold on, let me get my ladder, let me get up here. But really, they only show a quick, like, let me jump on.
That's why dragons aren't real, and that he shouldn't have even been on Vhagar before they escorted Luke right out the doors to his dragon. I mean, go fuck yourself, but whatever.
Yo, he went out the back way.
Yeah, and
He's
he climbed
fine.
all the way up Vhagar.
Oh, dude, he's fine. Vhagar just gives him the wing. He climbs right up the wing. He runs up the wing, and he knows what's good.
It's like a slide. She just she just like tilts her, like she gets him on the end of the wing, and then she tilts it up, and he slides down.
Yeah, I was gonna say at the end of the wing, and just like pops him in the air, and he just lands in his dragon seat.
Yeah, and then they fist bump.
Yeah, and then they fist bump and ready, let's go. And he's got like a marshmallow, and they gives him a little fire. Dracarys burns it, makes some s'mores, and then they're off, dude.
Yeah, and then she doesn't listen to him at all after that.
Yeah, and then she's like, nah, bro, I'm gonna eat this guy.
Yeah, once they get in the air, that's all bets are off. All right, so moving into a Corlys and Rhaenys scene. So we've been loving these throughout the entire season. This is a good one. Again, we finally get Corlys admitting that he has been wrong over the years of pushing to get on the Iron Throne. Rhaenys I think is probably feeling a little relief here, but she's also still upset kind of about a different thing now.
Yeah.
Where he kind of abandoned her. He got injured fighting on the Stepstones, which he left to do right after they had lost both of their kids.
Mhm.
And they have really nice emotional scenes. I thought this was just a nice scene. It also gives us kind of a little bit of an insight into what Corlys has been thinking and doing lately. It just was kind of good. It was good to see Corlys kind of mature. Obviously, he's an old man and it should have happened by now, but it is good to see him turn that corner.
Yeah, I liked his reaction to his brother, but that
Yeah.
nothing really to bring up here besides the next scene when he comes in is amazing.
Yeah. So, and also, this is the exact scene where Rhaenys does commend Rhaenyra for being the only one in the room to stop the war, which Kathleen obviously has been.
And that's pretty much what talked him into it, I would say, right?
Well, that and
And
Jace, Luke, and
because
Joff are claimants to the throne,
and they'll die.
and
Yeah.
they'll die. Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
again brings up the whoever said like Luke is gonna call him grandsire, granddad, or whatever, and it's like they are their grandkids. They grew up being their grandkids, even if they're technically not blood.
Yeah. I mean, he even mentions here too, again, that he was like, Rhaenyra was complicit in killing our son. Like, fuck her. Like, everything that happens with her is bad. And Rhaenys kind of convinces him the other way. So, yeah, the big Corlys scene is Corlys now enters into a third war council, I guess it is at this point. Like, only our boy Ken, even though he's limping, no one really commands a room like this guy.
Yeah.
It really is something else. And he just kind of lays it out. He wants to know what they talked about, and then he obviously adds his own little spice into the conversation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How is Corlys gonna ride a dragon in this condition?
He doesn't, so
He doesn't ride dragon.
Oh, shit! Fuck.
Rainey says
Hey,
he's a
Yeah.
dragon.
he's a ship captain, baby.
I forgot about that. Okay, cool. I was glad because I was like, they're counting him in, and he's out. So.
He doesn't have any Targaryen in him, right?
Yep, makes sense.
Mm-mm.
I was just
Well,
thinking
I
of
mean,
his wife and the
again,
kids.
he
Might.
might. They always say that there's a long history. So
No,
he
I mean,
could,
he chose the sea from when he was like 6 years old. So
the Valerians rule the sea, the Targaryens rule the skies, man.
Yeah, 100%.
One of
so
the best parts about this whole scene was definitely just, again, like I did not expect this much actual battle strategy about the war already. Like this, we just found out we're going to war 45 real human minutes ago, and we're already talking on our third strategies. And the way that Corlys lends his support with the fleet, and then they instantly starts going into strategic maneuvers about cutting off the narrow sea. They own the stepstones permanently, and they actually set up.
Epic.
That was like amazing. And then Rhaenys finally like stands for Rhaenyra's side here and says, "I'll even jump on Meleys and patrol the whatever she calls it,
The borders of sea or whatever. Yeah.
All of that was freaking amazing. And is Rhaenys the one that we see fly out to with Luke and Jace? Is that who? Okay,
I
that's what
believe
thought.
so. Yeah.
I would say that this is the peak of the episode where I feel like, oh shit, we could do this, man. We got
Yeah.
Corlys.
Well,
Let's
that's like
go.
the big news. Like it was news to all of them, right? Besides Corlys, that he now controls the stepstones.
yeah,
that was
Rhaenyra
lit.
is like her
Yeah,
face.
because Rhaenyra's like,
up.
"Woo, let's go!"
Yeah, that was good. And even before that, I liked the kind of, it's not even like a verbal sparring match, but Rhaenyra kind of again mentions that like, all of these lords swore oaths to me. And he was like, well, the Hightowers did too. And she's like, and so did you. And then,
Yeah.
and then he's like, and then he actually looks at the grandchildren who actually had just had a nice moment where when the girls
Release.
come in, and they stand next to their betrothed, and Rhaena and Luke actually have a little nice exchange and a smile there, which makes us sad.
Tears in the chat.
Yeah, absolute tears in the chat. And then this is when he kind of declares and says, our houses are bound by blood, blah, 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 blah. Like he's going to end up fighting for her.
And this is totally off topic, Kyle, but the 1,000 Ships, is that the one that's supposed to be about the sea snake, or is there a whole nother show? Whatever show's about the sea snake that George R. R. Martin confirmed is back, is that going to be Corlys and his actor?
It won't be him because
it'll be a younger version of him.
I'm pretty sure it's called The 9 Voyages because he's famous for like 9 different sea journeys to like different crazy parts of the world that then made him
right.
the richest
Isn't
person.
there
That'd
a
be cool,
random
yeah.
spot all the way in the north of Essos that's called Corlys or something like that? Because he was the first, he was like the first non-native to ever like go to this very obscure spot, and they like named the spot after him because he's like the first not blue person. I forget the name of the city, but whatever. Yeah. He's crazy.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I would like to look that up. But Yeah, because he's
Just the
definitely
fact
been.
that this shit exists and it's just in George R. R. Martin's mind.
It's the best. We got to
Yep.
drag more out of it. Come on, George.
Yeah, 75%. Come on, give us those.
75%.
I really don't want to say, 12 years, 10 years, whatever it's been, and
Yeah.
it's 75%. We have 25% of that. Let's not hope, or let's hope it's not the 3 or 4 more years.
We'll see what happens with him. All right, so I guess the only really big thing here, I guess it is fairly big, is that they kind of divvy up how they're now actually going to contact the Starks, Baratheons,
Right.
And they didn't mention the Riverlands yet, but how they're actually going to do this. So this is Maester Gerardus. I'm going to call him Gerardus. He wants to prepare ravens, but Jace actually kind of takes a little bit of a command here and steps up and says that, nah, fuck that shit. Birds are slow, dragons are faster, and dragons are much more intimidating. I love how Corlys immediately chimes in and is like, yeah, that's actually so that's a great idea.
Yep.
Damn, bro.
What, I squeaked?
A little squeak.
Yeah. It was
So-
only for a yup too, man. How embarrassing.
It's nice to know. It's nice to know marriage has not changed you.
No, I'm still the same prepubescent boy.
So Jace will go north. He will first stop at the Eyrie, and then he will go to Winterfell. So we get a Cregan Stark. I forget how. I feel like in my head I've always said Cregan, but
I say Cregan too in my head, but
so we're gonna get some Cregan Stark, the young wolf, one of the young wolves. I actually don't remember what his epithet is, but one of the most definitely hyped up characters in this, for good or bad. People have really interesting opinions on him. And then we get that Luke is going to go to Storm's End, which we know, womp, womp, womp. It's not the best idea.
He looks nervous now, too. Jace is volunteering him for this, and he's like, fine. But fine.
yeah.
And rightfully so, right? I mean, when Rhaenyra is walking them through it, oh, Cregan is young, find some common interest. And she's like, Luke, you will be welcomed with open arms. it's like, girl, you really just led him into an absolute shitstorm. I mean, if Aemond didn't beat him there, it obviously would have been fine. But if I'm Luke and I get off the dragon and Vhagar pops his head above a building, I am getting right the fuck back on Harris, and I am flying home. I don't care if I look like a pussy. I am flying
Yeah, right.
home.
It's all about honor, Kathleen. Come
He
on.
had to do his duty to his mother, to his queen, rather.
He's not here
good
for
too.
battle. He's here. He's a messenger. He's not a warrior today.
Even him just grabbing his sword, being like, okay, I mean, he sees
And we
him
know,
and he's
and we know, they show on the beach that he's still having some trouble with the sword, man.
yeah.
So
yes.
he know he wouldn't. He knows he's just doing it out of duty. He was not gonna have any chance against Daemon. But I thought the writing was easily on the walls with this conversation, like you said, Kathleen, where Rhaenyra talks to her 2 sons, especially when she says, "You're messengers. You're not warriors. You're not. No matter what, you have to listen to me. You're not here to fight." My mind was just racing with, all right, one of them's gonna be there. One of them's gonna want to fight, and one of the sons, whichever one's gonna die, is gonna say, "No, I'm not fighting." And it was just going to be an easy way for them to get hurt or die. So I just thought, okay, I'm either half right. I'm close here. I thought this conversation equaled definitely one of the sons was dying.
His little baby hand on that Bible. I'm like, you're sending a baby.
Yeah.
The Bible.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head what that book's even fucking called. But I do like to.
It's called A Song of Ice and Fire.
Just getting in bed.
You turn that way. But I do like how he says yes, mother, and then corrects himself and says your grace. I thought that was, again, they're setting us up, the little motherfuckers.
She's a good mom. Even though she did send him here, she's gonna be fucking mad at herself for a long time.
And he's a good boy. I do have a question though. I'm just curious what we thought of the comment that Cregan Stark is closer to their age, so he's also somewhat of a young man.
I couldn't wait to see him, and then we didn't get to see him. I want to see a little ballsy motherfucker be kind of like Aegon, right? I mean, Aegon's a young ass king, and he's going to be on the crown doing stupid bullshit. They're going to be pulling him out of brothels still. So I was excited to see Cregan. But
what kind of common ground are you going to find with Cregan here? If he's a young Ned or something, he's boring as shit probably.
Jace is boring though.
Yeah, Jace is very dutiful.
No women. He's gonna be like, oh, I'm betrothed. I mean, no women.
Yeah.
Maybe some sparring, some light sparring on the sword yard,
Well, we'll definitely
whatever,
see.
practice yard.
Yeah, the trip to Winterfell is definitely in the cards for season 2. And also, speaking to of Jace, and I just like how they did it kind of subtly throughout this too, of how like dutiful and into it Jace is, and how kind of nervous and not into it Luke is.
Yeah.
And then Luke obviously
Mhm.
gets the short end of the stick by getting clapped.
So
Okay.
Joffrey is now the heir to Driftmark, correct? Little baby Joffrey.
Yeah, after this episode for sure.
Mm.
Which I'm sure Laenor is
But Corlys
across
is
the
still alive,
sea
so.
being like, "Oh, Joffrey, you're gonna do it."
I
Yeah, I named you after my
That's so
boy.
funny.
I wonder if he's like catching the newspaper or anything. Or maybe we'll like obviously, I mean, Luke, you're the only one here that reads One Piece, but like chapter cover stories. It's just like Laenor's adventures in Essos. Like we get like a 5-minute or like a 1-minute scene of him like, having some tea and reading a newspaper on the terrace balcony.
Love that.
With what's his name?
Carl with a Q.
Carl with a Q. Jimmy, you know where he's from? Did we talk? Were you on the episode when
He
we
was
talked
not,
about
no.
that?
No,
Do you know? You know
He's-
Laenor's?
He is from, this is going to be a shameless self-promotion here too. He is from a level C show from the show rankings we just did, which will probably air at some point.
And the main
Not
character.
Winona or
No.
Us four covered it.
oh
There's your hint.
gosh, I don't remember.
Us four covered it,
What
so-
he even looks like, to be honest.
Also, lots of Game of Thrones actors in the show. Maybe not
Sparty
lots,
was
but-
a B. Oh,
Think
you
of
said
the
lots
ones
of
that
Game of
us
Thrones?
four count. All right, we'll take it offline. Keep thinking because we gotta.
Yeah.
Well, just tell me. I don't need. I
It's
don't need to
Carnival Row.
guess.
Carnival Row. He's the son.
He's the
Oh
one that
the-
shit!
captured.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't have any work to do for Carnival Row. He's
Yeah, it's
Free
exactly
to-
what we said.
Yeah, he's definitely free. All right.
this
so-
probably doesn't need to be on podcast. I just want to spit it out real quick. But is there any talk or like what? We're talking about Kathleen saying dragons aren't real. How do you talk to him? Like Laenor's dragon. Does he just say like, yo, stay here and pretend I'm dead? Or like I would think that the dragon would still be like loyal to him and follow him wherever he goes. Like,
I have no
I
idea
don't think they're
because
like
he's
like
not.
they can like smell you, right? Like I don't think they can
I-
know where you are. If you
I mean,
leave.
they were flashing Cyrax like her and Rhaenyra, like as Rhaenyra was going through all the pain, and we've seen it too with Caraxes responding to Daemon. I don't know if they'll ever address that because Laenor's dead in the book, so it doesn't matter. The book
okay.
doesn't need to address it because it's not a thing because Laenor's dead.
So when Laenor disappears in the show, is that actually his outs? Is he's dead in the book?
Oh yeah,
Or is it just separate that he died?
He 100% dies in the book.
Carl kills
Oh,
him.
okay.
Yeah, Carl
that's interesting.
Carl kills him. Actually, kills him in the book.
Funny because I actually
So
have a
that-
note that's like, is Laenor coming back at all? What do you guys think? at
So
any
that
point?
leans more into our conversation about how they're glorifying Rhaenyra a little bit more than what the books do, right?
Well, in the books,
Like the show is trying to.
in the book, it's more of a question of like it's Daemon is kind of the one who's
Okay.
more at like okay, Daemon
Orders it
probably
and-
hired him to kill him. Yeah,
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, let's
it's-
move along here.
yeah, it's less so.
We
on
are
that.
we're approaching 2 hours. I think that's
Yeah, we're
that's
at an hour and a half.
We're at an hour and a half.
hour and a
yeah.
half right now. Yeah.
So we're at our final 3 scenes. So obviously 2 of them are going to be Storm's End. The last one will be Rhaenyra finding out about Storm's End. I think we should just take it all of Storm's End before the dragon flight. Obviously the dragon flight on its own, and then the last one. So we arrive at Storm's End for the first time ever. We've talked about it a ton throughout Game of Thrones, but now we get to see it for the first time, and we get Luke arriving during a storm, which is very fitting. And like we had mentioned, Luke lands, and we just get Vagar in the background, which
My
was
gosh, the
an
lightning
insane
bolt.
shot.
Yep. The
Yeah,
lightning bolt that shows her. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Luke is shook. So then Luke is then brought into the kind of main chamber. He's announced to Boros, and we find that Aemon's here. And then immediately we know things are going south, and things do go quite south. Just in Storm's End, regardless of the dragon flight for Luke.
This dude not being able to read. So
I
funny.
guess this Baratheon is a lot more like Robert than Stannis, man, because he's not about duty or honor or anything. He's like, so what can you do for me? I don't care if I bent the knee before to Rhaenyra. Like, come on.
Question: what marriage pact did they promise Daemon to one of them?
No, so
No.
yeah, so if you recall,
I mean, not Daemon. I meant to say
yeah,
Aemond.
you're okay. If you recall last episode, they mentioned Tywin Lannister mentions in the small council meeting that Boris Baratheon has 4 unmarried daughters, and in this scene, when we come in, Aemond is speaking to one of the daughters, and then there's 3 daughters that are standing next to Boris Baratheon.
Right. So it's
That's what I
Daemon.
thought. So
They
I didn't
said
mean to say
Aemon.
Daemon, obviously.
Yeah, no, you're okay. So yeah, it's not said explicitly. They kind of show you a little bit more that Aemond is there to basically take a wife.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's what
And
I was asking, just confirming.
Just the way that Baby Monk Aemon can just control a scene with just staring and doing nothing, which is doing a lot because he's just literally just being intimidating and just waiting for Luke to just get flat out rejected because of his offer being shit compared to theirs. It's just amazing. Like I love him so much as a character, and it gets even better at the end when he realizes he fucked up because it humanizes him a little bit, and he's not pure Daemon, like just going 100% intense the entire time. And this was just great. And like if we're good with the Baratheon talk, because like it escalates to the point where everybody knew this was coming that's been paying attention. He rips off his eye patch, and you see the sapphire eye. I think it was even in the intro sequence in the episode before the little sapphire. It was like an Easter egg kind of thing. All of this was awesome. People from the books have been expecting it, and just the way he tries to have Luke just cut out his own eye again to get the revenge is just so perfect, and it just leads to just like that tension that you expect every time Aemon's on the screen, and he always lives up to the hype for me, and I hope he did for you guys too, even before we get to the dragon ride, because he just steals every fucking scene, and I need more Daemon and Aemon on the screen together because they're just chaotic fun.
Yeah,
Baby Monk.
What do you think about his kind of voice cracking a little bit? He's like, "Give me your eye, bastard."
Well, you know, I mean, all mature, strong men have cracking voices.
Of course,
that moment is one of the few times we see Aemond lose his head, right? Like in a way that's kind of dramatic. Even when he got his eye sliced out, he was like, "Don't whatever for me, mother. I gained a dragon. I might have lost an eye."
Yeah, it just seems like he has that soft spot for that scene back when he wanted that dragon so bad, and they made fun of him with the pig. Like his other time losing his shit, whether he loses it and then he kind of calms and gives that sweet speech, as he slams his drink on the table when the pig gets put on the table and he sees is it Luke again, or it's Luke?
Yeah, it's Luke.
Give the smirk, you know, and Jace is dancing and he does the speech, and so I mean,
it's just a core memory for him, and it sucks because it just clearly stands
Triggers
out every time he sees Luke. But off of him just freaking out right there, the one line he says, he's like, "My lord's strong," and and he says like, "I'm not gonna fight you." He goes, "Yeah, a fight would be of little challenge." Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? It's so great.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And he also says he's gonna gift his eye to his mom.
Yeah,
which just makes me obviously think about what Allison's reaction would be to him coming with the eye. Don't think she would like that.
Well, the joke is that she said an eye for an eye when she had her freak out. She said, you need to give me his eye. And Viserys was like, whoa. All right, chill out.
Yeah, for sure. Bringing up Kathleen's point, this is the only thing. I have 2 little things to say about the Baratheon part of this. He can't read, which is funny, of course. Leans into this is part of the Maester conspiracy too from the books, of that a lot of lords and like people in general are illiterate. So they just have to trust what the Maester tells them. What the Maester
says.
So we don't, and he whispers it to him. It's not like he reads it out loud. So I don't think he did anything. I'm not saying that in the scene, but in general, that is definitely part of it from the books too, that a lot of these motherfuckers can't read. And then the second one, I liked a little bit of the nuance kind of where Boros keeps saying your mother and Luke keeps responding with the queen.
Yeah.
Thought that was interesting that he kept saying your mother, and not the queen. I just thought they did a good job of that. All right, so at this point, Boros is like, all right, motherfuckers, I'm not having this happen in my hall in Storm's End, so take Prince Lucerys to his dragon and get these motherfuckers out of here. And now
that's a little respect, though. Just like protecting the envoy, like what Jimmy was bringing up earlier.
He's not a complete idiot, I guess.
Yeah.
So Luke gets escorted to Arrax, and Arrax is visibly spooked. Luke is actually spooked himself. Tries to calm down Arrax I love when they speak the High Valyrian commands.
Yeah.
And kind of they take flight into the storm, which.
But you missed the best part, which is
Vagar's
just
not there.
Vagar
it
was
wasn't
missing.
it wasn't even like, okay, when Vagar first, we kind of just said it real quick, like when you saw Vagar, that was just unreal to see, like
Yeah.
him towering over, like, and how terrifying that was. But I thought it was just so good how more terrifying this was, that he wasn't anywhere to be seen.
This
Yep.
was a
At this
horror
point,
sequence.
if you didn't already
Yeah.
know, and you were just like a surface level TV watcher, you have to be like, okay, death. Like if you didn't,
I would have
know to
ran
this
right into
point,
their hall and been like, "Yo,
Yeah.
let me stay."
Can I sleep over?
Yeah.
My tummy hurts. Can I sleep
Yeah.
over?
yeah.
Literally.
God, it was so scary, man.
So yeah, we get into the air. It's fucking downpouring. First thing I thought of too was this. They don't have goggles or helmets. They're
I
just
know.
riding, raw dogging it in the rain.
They don't have that Harry Potter spell that Hermione does for Harry on his glasses.
Dude, exactly what I was thinking of too. And that has to be like our 19th Harry Potter reference.
Yep.
Which is really funny. So basically, Arax is trying to navigate. We get the rumblings from Vagar in the distance, and then we get the iconic shot from the episode of Vagar flying above them and lit up by the lightning strikes. Yeah, that was fucking awesome. I mean, obviously, like Luke had said, people who have read the books have been really looking forward to this happening, and holy fuck, when that shot came, I was like, God damn, we are doing this right now. It was crazy.
Dude.
When
I
Aemond
can't
is
even praise
laughing,
it enough.
when
Yeah.
Daemon's like, ha 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 ha, from the top, he's so menacing. It's so scary.
It's one of the best visuals in Game of Thrones history. I'm talking about the entire series and House of the Dragon. It's just it goes back, and I said it when we were hanging. It goes back to like the famous Jaws scene when you have the boat and then you just have Jaws under it, and it's so big. And you know, Jaws is considered a horror movie. Now it's laughable, but back then it was considered a horror movie. And seeing that with the dragon, you know, being ridden and then Vagar on top, like ominous as hell.
Yeah.
What's that fear that of huge things? I forget what it's
Oh,
called,
yes.
but that is this. Like I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not even gonna say it. But that is this whole scene front to back. Like
Hugeophobia.
anytime Vagar, hugeophobia. That's exactly how to forget. It's just every time Vagar has been around in this episode has just been like, I've been on the edge of my seat. Absolute tension. This is just a masterclass in cinematography for fake CGI monsters. It's just crazy. It's so fucking well done. And like Kathleen said, the cackling, like before you know where he actually is, before they actually start messing with each other, it's just perfect television. I couldn't even imagine anything that they could have done better here.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. So we get to Vagar's kind of snapping a little bit Arax from behind. Aemon at this point we hear him speak High Valyrian. My take on it the second time was that that was kind of again like kind of obey me. Like I don't know if he really wanted Vagar to actually do that much. Maybe possible. But then we get Luke and Arax, and we were actually yelling at this, like when he goes through like the little small kind of like cliffside pass that he did it, and we were like, he did it, like we're good. And we get Vagar and Aemon from above, and I just like the quote of "You have a debt, boy" that he says in High Valyrian, and I just like the boy is Tauba. I love the way he says it. It was really good.
It's gonna be like your what is it?
Oh yeah, from the 100.
Yeah, from the 100. Yeah,
Trigator slang.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I don't.
What
I
is
have to go
something like
back and
something
listen to the
down?
episode.
Is it down?
Yeah.
Well, it's tough because it's like
Shit.
partially English. It's like Creole, like style of language where like it's kind of like partially English.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I feel like it was like something down or something like
yeah,
that.
it is down for sure. I'm listening to our finale coverage. I know we'll say it 10 times.
Yeah.
That or the Josephine interview for sure, because you guys made me say it there. That happened. Okay, so
And you sang to her as well.
That did happen. I sung "Hey Jude." Yes, to Joseph.
Go check that out.
Yeah, good time. You watched the 100. We covered the 100. Good shit. And we get so at this point we're kind of flying blind. We don't really know what's happening, and we get Arax comes out and actually disobeys Luke, sprays Vagar with some fire. Then Aemon loses control of Vagar, and at this point, all hell has broken loose.
Right.
And at this point, was kind of fucking with him, thought he had things under control. Vagar now is turning completely instinctual because Arax turned completely instinctual first. And we do get an amazing shot of Luke kind of getting above the clouds into what we think is apparent safety, because we're kind of relating safety with there's no storm anymore and we see the sunlight and we're like, oh my God, like totally, like good shit. He got above the clouds, and then literally just from below, open jaws, snap. Aemon is even yelling like Vhagar no, and where's Arax is in pieces. We know Luke is either inside Vhagar or tumbling down in his own pieces, and
Oh my gosh.
it's just silence.
Luckily, it was a sneak attack. Luke only had about 1 second before he was being turned and was being chomped. I mean, he was probably shitting himself that entire ride, but he thought he was in the clear. At least
Yeah,
it wasn't
you're dead
like,
before you. Yeah.
Yeah, but sheesh,
Dude,
Arax
the
is an
freaking-
idiot.
like the pieces of Arax falling is like the most like gory part of the entire thing, like that I just did not expect to see on TV ever. And Eamon's face, like I'm not gonna get over it. I almost think that made his character better for me, because it just added more dimensions to him, not just being pure evil. I know he was trying to control Vhagar, but the fact that he actually had regret on his, like, he was like, what the fuck did I just do? I've been seeing a million great memes online about like when he walks home, like, oh, all right, going to bed, mom, good night.
Yeah,
Into
yeah.
his room, like stuff like that, because he just basically started the war, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a lot when we were talking about Aemon, especially in the scenes where he was looking for Aegon and he was saying, I should be king and this and that. But he's so dutiful to his family. He follows his orders. He knows that Alicent's deal right now is to, make sure Aegon's on the throne. But at the same time, she's working on getting Rhaenyra to bend the knee, and she doesn't want this war. And whether Aegon agrees or doesn't agree, we know he's going to follow it. So he knows that he screwed up. And like you said, look, that face, he knows, shit, man, I just started a freaking war.
So after this, we get a scene of Daemon slowly telling Rhaenyra, right? And we get this iconic scene of her breaking down for a little and then slowly turning around and kind of looking down the lens of the camera in this like very evil way. How do you I saw something online that they found out because Arax washed up on shore. Is that like book canonic in the book?
Correct. Yes. Arax's head, Arax is, I guess the way you said that, his head washes up on the shore of Storm's End, and they're like, oh fuck.
And then they send a letter after that or something?
It doesn't say, but at least doesn't say in what I just quickly read while you were saying that.
Right,
but
right.
I think that it lends a lot of at first I remember watching and was like, whoa, like when Aemon reacts like, holy shit, that just happened and wasn't on purpose. And that's what some people are definitely upset about, that they did it so that Aemon didn't do it on purpose. And honestly, the more you think about it again, and it even does say in the books that like literally no one was there. So
yeah,
like how could they know? It says it in the sense of like, it couldn't have been a fight because Vhagar was 5 times bigger and has been through 100 battles. So like no one was obviously there, but there's no way it was actually a fight. And then again, we get into this thing I've mentioned before of it's all of these different sources and word of mouth type stuff where like there's even like it says that one of the Baratheon daughters like calls Aemon a pussy because like he won't actually fight Luke and like cut out his eye. And then that is what makes him so mad that he then goes and kills him. And then he kind of he then took both of his eyes out of his dead head and gave them to the daughter and then left. Like that's one of the stories, which is like an insane thing to think about.
Right.
I read that somewhere.
Yeah. So I think the perspectives in the book make it out. And especially because they have the fight beforehand where he's like calling him a pussy or a bastard and all this shit. So that like it's very easy to just be like, oh, he totally did that on purpose.
Yeah, right.
And I think that, I mean, we'll see where they go with it in terms of he didn't do it on purpose. But it is just kind of an interesting thing to think about. I don't think the actual impact of him not being able to control Vhagar is as intense as people are taking it online of like what it actually means for like all dragon riders and everything like that. I think it's not like that.
Okay.
Is my take on it. I guess it will come, but I was definitely shocked at first and then didn't love it at first. And then the more I think about it and actually rereading the book too, the book parts about it, it does seem very sensationalized, everything about it, to almost paint Aemon as like this complete asshole. I mean, it totally fits his character. If you didn't really know what happened, you would totally believe that he did it on purpose.
Right.
But it's not like he's not guilty. He's not all free because he didn't
Oh, of course
like
not.
make this happen. He's still like
Oh, yeah.
45% to blame.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was
Yeah.
juggling a knife and got caught. Like he's
Yeah,
fucking with
yeah.
him while he's riding this fucking nuclear weapon of a beast that he clearly doesn't have as much control over as he thought he had.
I mean, that's the whole joke, that he knows he's coming home to get put in time out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, dude, that Rhaenyra look, like, what a way to have the closing shot be that, because the writers or the behind the scenes whatever said she had war in her eyes. Like that's what the script said. And it's just like, let's fucking go. What a part one. This season of House of the Dragon was like the strongest first season of almost any show ever, outside of like fucking Dark, and like The Boys like has a really strong first season. Like there's a couple of very select top of the top shows. Westworld's in it, just
That's
top
not a
of top shows. And
show.
Yeah,
well,
but
was the
Anymore.
first season, I would
one.
argue
totally.
Westworld's first season might be the best of all time. I don't know. I would have to really
it's
think
up
about
there.
it.
It's up there for sure.
But my bottom line is, I don't know like what the sentiment is, and people keep having this revisionist history. I've brought it up before, but like people were nowhere near as hype, excited, reviewed the first season of Game of Thrones as House of the Dragon. Like this is unreal, and it's just it's the better first season in my opinion. Well, like I don't really go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about this really quick, which this is so interesting. So on the Bingetown TV Twitter,
I knew you were going to bring this up.
And but also on the Bingetown TV YouTube community channel, I put the poll up twice. I put it on Twitter and I put it on YouTube. YouTube had more votes than Twitter by a lot, but who cares? Let's get to this. On YouTube, Game of Thrones season one won 76 to 26%. Okay. Better first season. But on Twitter, House of the Dragon won 65% to 35%. So it just seems like, it's more like a 50-50 thing. People were back and forth.
I don't know why. For me, I don't see it as a comparison. Obviously, House of the Dragon gets helped by the budget of already coming off of one of the greatest series of all time. Like, I don't think it's really apples to apples. I think we can just enjoy it all as like one universe and be like, this is fucking lit. And coming off the back of season 8 of Game of Thrones, I think it's a better comparison to say coming off of the back of season 8 of Game of Thrones, which a lot of people were pissed. I'm just so pumped that House of the Dragon season 1 came out absolutely swinging.
Like, I'm not taking into account these other things like budget and stuff. So the reason you're saying it's not apples, I know. Well, what I'm saying is because you're saying it's not apples to apples is exactly my point. Like this is just a better product objectively in almost every single way. And I hate that people like online, because it's so easy to hate on things that are currently going on. It's just easy to be trolls and hatred like that, because people did not care about Game of Thrones after season 1 or after season 2. It really took until season 3 before it hit its mainstream stride. And now it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, like this is nothing like when Ned Stark was running shit and like Cersei Lannister. Like, yeah, like you're saying that now with the hindsight of Game of Thrones and how good it got. Like House of the Dragons starts off sprinting basically. And I'm just here to say that it was fucking amazing. And
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Like this season is unbelievable. We're biased because we're podcasting on it, but also I'm a fucking harsh ass critic. And I think that this destroyed my expectations, because I'm also the biggest hater you'll find when it comes to season 8 of Game of Thrones. So it was hard. It was an uphill battle, and it's still, I am just as happy as I could possibly be with this show.
Yeah. For me, this episode made me feel sad. Like, 1, that it was ending. 2, about Luke. I think they did a great job with building him up, even just at the end, giving him screen time enough, and having our girl Rhaenyra obviously hurt to her core. And I got to keep reminding myself that the House of the Dragon and the Dance of the Dragons is a tragedy, like not like a triumphant story. Yeah. I have to keep reminding myself of that. It's not like really someone's going to come out happy by the end, I feel. I mean, maybe
we know the end. I mean, the Targaryens are wiped off the face of the earth pretty much. So.
Exactly. So I have to keep reminding myself of that in the best way, like moving forward, it's just going to be absolute chaos and death. So I gotta buck up, because this episode made me a little sad in again, best way. I thought it was a fucking amazing episode, amazing series. This has been a really fun one to cover too. I just got to give my shout out and props to Kyle, who's been our fearless leader. He's got all the knowledge in that dome, and he's been so smoothly ripping it this whole time. So
It's fun.
thanks for that.
First of all, I would appreciate that, or I do appreciate that. But it's been funny of like, you guys will ask me questions, and then I'll say an answer, and then there's times where we'll get off the podcast, and I'm like, "Fuck, that was so wrong."
Well, it's just
or like
so
maybe not
much to know.
totally right, and then I write it down of like, oh, like I'll just issue a correction next episode, and I have never done that. So I'm sure there's people out there that are like, "This dude's an idiot" or whatever. But if you do feel that way, I feel like you should tweet at us or something,
right?
Have a conversation about it, because I don't mind being corrected.
But
because Jesus, I mean, like you said, yeah, there's just so much shit, and they've been doing a fantastic job. I feel like I've read online of people saying that. I mean, I'm sure it's just like a very vocal minority that have been upset about the show and the changes that they've made. But I feel like everything's been done for the most part, like really well. Obviously, it's not perfect, because I don't, you can take it that nothing is perfect, but I thought they've done an amazing job of taking some of the liberties that the source material gives them, of that it's not a novel and that everything is spelled out for us. All the quotes are in there. It is like I've said a million times, it's three people's books that they've written distilled into one, where this guy is the character technically almost in the show of trying to distill it all down into what actually happened. So I think they've done a really, really good job of that. And an interesting thing from the George R. R. Martin talk that I was not at, I attended, I guess you could say virtually, is that he had said that when they asked him for more shows kind of as Game of Thrones was ending, and he pitched this idea to them because he had written like very short stories about like Daemon, about Rhaenyra, and about this kind of stuff. So cool. And then they were like, I think, and Random House, who publishes his books, was like, you should make this, like, you should put out a book for this. So they kind of told him to like take a break on wins and write this thing. And then, eventually the show will come out about it and all that kind of stuff. Obviously it turned into a bigger thing, I think, than he thought it might have, and that it's coming out in 2 books and shit like that. But it really was kind of made for this, and it's really come across well. I really think it was a fantastic season. I don't have really any complaints. We've done the hot takes, but the hot takes aren't really complaints about anything. So I can't imagine being a book reader and being upset about this season.
Yeah, because, they need to relax.
Yeah, which feels weird, because lately, I'll be honest, like being book readers for fantasy shows in particular lately has not been the best thing. I've actually been thinking about it recently of like, it's kind of funny that like it almost seems like a bad thing to be book readers, because even like I'm and I'm talking a lot right now, but I'm like 1.5 episodes into Rings of Power, and I'm like looking around like, I like this. Like, I don't know what's wrong, like what's not correct. So like it feels interesting and engaging to me. It's just thinking like, man, it's probably a good thing that I didn't like dive into the Silmarillion and try to read as much as I could have.
Yep. Totally agree. Wheel of Time, The Witcher, The Lord of the Rings. You don't want to be a book reader because we're insufferable, basically.
Yeah, but Game of Thrones,
I'm in that.
Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones, for this specifically, there are some people out there that aren't happy, but I think the large majority, they pretty much done the impossible.
Can't be happy, man.
Yeah, and some people are a little bit too, I don't want to say emotionally invested, but I think that they kind of pick things that they latch onto, and if it isn't exactly in their head, then it's not good at all. But thankfully, I'm not like that generally, so it's been fucking fantastic for me, and I will now cede the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you nailed it. I don't have much left to say, except this kind of proves that George R. R. Martin is just the GOAT. I mean, you need him to make these shows phenomenal. As soon as he left Game of Thrones, it was just downhill. He's back, and House of the Dragon is, like you said, pretty much loved by everybody. We can't call him the GOAT until he can actually finish his damn series. But I mean,
he's the GOAT of like of book to television and adaptation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we talked about it, and there's I mean, not that any of us really, I mean, Kyle and Luke are close, but can be any kind of expert on fantasy. But just to say, like, when he finishes, I would say that he's probably gonna end up being the GOAT. Like, if he finishes, I guess.
But he won't.
It'll
that's
just
a better way to say it.
That'll just be like the whole. That'll be a debate that's absolutely.
And it's all relative. Man.
It's like, I mean, it's almost like LeBron, Kobe
Yeah, it's
and
all
Jordan.
it's all relative. But
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say. This was a phenomenal season. I appreciate you guys letting me jump on for the last 2 episodes.
Of course.
Guest of the Game of Thrones pod or House of the Dragon pod. Sir, I'm gonna say Sir Jim Luke, Sir Jim Targaryen.
Who turned out to be a girl.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, because I guess we did mention that we were calling the mist. I was gonna say the mist-born baby. Wow, the
Ooh.
miscarriage baby. Sir Jim. Yeah, Sir Jace.
It was Sir
Kathleen,
Jace,
you're
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
you're right.
letting my name loose. I'm trying to
Well,
say.
what do they know
incognito
about
here.
it until you say it
I'm trying
like
to be-
that?
That's fair enough.
Sir Jim.
All right. So
All right, sprint through hot take MVP, LVP.
Oh.
Then we
I already
get out,
did
or Did
mine.
you have something?
Yeah, my hot take was already out there, and Kyle, you told me I'm pretty hot. So Luke and Kyle, if you want to nail yours real quick, then
okay, my hot take is gonna be that I was not super satisfied with this as like a season finale. I would say initially, it didn't feel like it was like, whoa, like that's the ending. But I think that the more I think about it, the better I get on it. But I don't know. I guess because I know what's like right up next, and it feels like there could have been like a really big exclamation point. But I guess the Battle of Storm's End is a pretty good exclamation point. But I guess it just feels like there should have been more episodes, which I mean, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. That's not
Mhm.
a terribly good take or well worded one, but
So
Luke?
mine's probably not going to be hot either then, because or I don't know if it is. It's probably not going to be hot for this based on our conversation, but I think it is based on the sentiment of like the public narrative. But I was going to say that this is the second best episode across season 1, Game of Thrones, and all of House of the Dragon, only behind episode 9 of Game of Thrones because of the Ned Stark moment being like one of the craziest things that's ever happened. But even so, I still say House of the Dragon's better, and I think this is the second best of the season 1s. And I think that actually might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't know if this is everybody's favorite episode this season, but it's 100% my favorite episode. It didn't sound like that was like Dave and Alki's and Brian's when
Yeah.
I voiced it after we watched the episode, so maybe it is hot. I don't
Not
really
mine
know.
either.
I thought this ended with the peak of the season. So there you go.
That's
That's my
good.
hot take. Or Damon's Dragon is the best one out of all of them.
That's not
including
hot
Drogon.
because-
I don't think that's hot.
yeah, that's not hot because he's
Okay,
the
cool.
man. But I
Awesome.
think that it would be very interesting to bring up this conversation, season 1 Game of Thrones, season 1 House of the Dragon, if we come back and do all 7 of us on a pod, if we do
Nice
a
wrap up, yeah.
season wrap up, because we kind of let this one loose live together, and there were some people that were on the Game of Thrones season 1 side, and I don't remember if it was you, Kyle, or it might have been Brian that said, you're talking about Luke hindsight, and he was saying, well, House of the Dragon had, the opportunity, or I don't think
standing on Game of Thrones shoulders.
standing on Game of Thrones shoulders. It was, lucky enough to do that. And that's kind of
Right.
why it's not the apples to apples that like Kathleen was saying, but that's for another time. And we can have some fun with that one because, with 7 of us, we're going to have to get an answer. Someone's going to 4-3.
Another
5-2,
battle like we
or
had
6-1.
this past weekend. Jesus,
Yeah,
that
jeez.
was.
Yo,
Do we want to do top and bottom, or do we want to call it a night?
it doesn't matter.
Let's.
to me.
I'll do it in 2 seconds because
All right.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
no explanations. Just say your top and bottom.
Yeah.
All right, Luke.
Corlys, the motherfucking rider. Hell yeah, he's the homie. And
Yeah.
he gets it. And then bottom, dude, I had nobody. I almost said Rhaenyra for not letting Daemon kill Cyrax on the fucking. I mean,
Oh.
use Cyrax to kill Otto. Sorry, on the Dragon Mount path. So I didn't have a bottom. So there you go. Or Baratheon.
I'm gonna bounce off that because my top is Rhaenyra. I mean, the bitch with just going through it this season, and I think she's gonna be an amazing queen if she gets there. Bottom is Vhagar for eating my dude. Like, don't do that. Next.
James.
I'm gonna go. I want to go with Rhaenyra and her actress. I just thought that it was killed this episode. Really, we already brought it up, but Emma killed it with their portrayal of Rhaenyra going through grief, going through uncertainty, rage at the end, just unbelievable. LVP. I guess I'm gonna go Baratheon here. I just think that I always think, and I joke about it, but I think about Stannis, and I don't know anything about the Baratheon line. We know Robert and Stannis, and even Stannis and Renly are way different. So I don't know which side the Baratheon blood's supposed to go, but this Baratheon sandbag central to our girl Rhaenyra.
I will take, since you guys have all had good ones, and I'll try not to double up. So my top will be Sir Eric Cargill, because
Good scene.
our guy slipped out and gave Rhaenyra Viserys'
I like that.
crown,
I like
and
that.
I'm
That's a good
explaining. I'm
answer.
sorry. And my bottom, and oh my god, my bottom's gonna be Allison.
Okay.
Because she's not in it.
Now
Because
the page is weak.
Yeah, the page is weak.
Really? Because I was like, kiss, kiss,
The
kiss.
page is weak
Yes.
and naive. How about that?
Okay.
I liked it.
Nah, fuck her. Team Black. All you Team Green people listening to the podcast, stop listening.
It's too late. It's already done. You listen.
Yeah. Okay.
Season 1 finish, baby.
Yeah. So that's all she wrote. Jimmy teased a little bit of us doing like a full Bingetown episode. That might happen in the future if we can get it scheduled. I would personally enjoy that. Just like top 5 things, episode, all that kind of blah, blah, blah stuff. So if you like what you heard and you're somehow followed us this whole season and you're not subscribed, what do you do? And please subscribe on whatever you're listening or watching on. And you can follow us on our socials, which you've actually mentioned a couple of times this episode, Twitter and Instagram at Bingetown TV. The TikTok name changes. James pulls fast ones on me, so I never actually.
I'm back to just Bingetown TV.
Okay, so it's at Bingetown TV for that as well. We have a website. All of our collection of episodes is on the website, bingetowntv.com. Again, as always, if you're feeling super, super, super generous and want to throw us some gold dragons, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/bingetowntv. We talked about it recently. We're putting out just an insane amount of episodes lately. I mean, Rick and Morty season is actually on a hiatus right now, but we've done that. Midnight Club has been coming out. We're covering that. Vampire Academy. We've actually been snagging some nice interviews for that as well. So definitely check those out. Obviously, more coming on the horizon. And I think that's all I got. So honestly, thanks for following through this whole long finale episode. Thanks for following for the whole season. We really appreciate you guys, and thanks for listening.
Dragons are gonna dance, man.
Love
Well,
you.
they're not real, so they can't dance.
Dragons are not real.
Oh.
Just-
All right, cool.
All right, good shit, guys. That was fun, man.